In this episode, we visit Malta through reviews of 4 great books. Hi, it's Catherine here. When I was growing up, to me Malta was this tiny little speck somewhere in the Mediterranean and a long way from Australia. The only reason I knew it existed was because this is where my dad was born. Dad always said Malta was just this big rock, and as a kid, the only part of my Maltese heritage I really tapped into was the food, like macaroni, a baked pasta dish, and pastizzis, these little delicious cheese pastries. Once I got older and dug a bit deeper, I uncovered that Malta has a pretty impressive backstory. These little islands have been pillaged and plundered over the centuries as invaders have fought to gain control of the best shipping ports around. All of the greats from history have lined up to get a piece of the action, from Napoleon to Solomon the Magnificent. But it's the battles of World War II that have really shaped the modern Malta of today. And our first book is my best pick from the many World War II stories I have read set in Malta. It's The Kappillan of Malta by Nicholas Monserrat. This story takes us straight to 1940 and is centred around Father Salvador. He's a humble priest who spends his days trying to fix his crumbling church and care for the poor and unfortunate in his parish. Each week, he visits his mother out of duty and love. She lives in Valletta, the capital. It's an ancient city perched between 2 harbours with buildings made of rock and narrow streets that are so easy to get lost in. Early one morning, Father Salvador is walking up a steep hill to his mother's house. He hears rumbling and looks up to see planes flying overhead. Boom! The first bombs to hit Malta in World War II are raining down, and his life is now changed forever. From this point forward, Malta is in disarray. Bombs continue to fall, and Salvador needs to get back to his parish to see who can be saved. This book has suspenseful storytelling, and as I was reading, I was turning the pages quicker and quicker to find out what happened next. Many of the events included are taken from real life and are weaved in authentically to the plot. It was a tough time for all the Maltese people, with some hiding out in catacombs, others working in dangerous conditions to rebuild the docks after each bombing, and many are struggling to find food and keep their faith in humanity. Throughout the story, I was scared and happy in equal amounts as I went on this roller coaster ride of emotions and history. After World War II, the Maltese people were awarded the George Cross for bravery by the King of England, and I now understand why. Read this book if you enjoy historical fiction and want to get a taste of what the Maltese people endured during World War II. Nowadays, when most people visit Malta, it's all fun in the sun with lots of swimming in beautiful blue waters and drinking the local beer. And this book delivers exactly that vibe. It's called Summer on a Sunny Island by Sue Morecroft. There is this big group of British expats who descend on Malta for a reunion. Among them is Dora, a celebrity cook. She plans to stay for the whole summer and also write a new cookbook based on Mediterranean food. She has dragged along her daughter Rosa for her first trip to Malta. Rosa is determined to leave behind the heartbreak of a failed relationship in the UK and enjoy a long summer in Malta. Mother and daughter settle into their summer apartment and soon meet Zach, who is living upstairs. Zach has also escaped from the UK to Malta for reasons that are not so obvious. Zach is kind and sexy, and little sparks ignite between him and Rosa from their first outing along the seafront. But they are both at a bit of a messy time in their lives. So is a summer romance really what they want? This is a feel-good story that immerses you in the best bits of Malta. The bars, the beaches, the boats in the harbour and the endless sunshine. There are plenty of likeable characters. One of my favourites is 4-year-old Paige, who can wrap her Uncle Zachy around her little finger, especially when she wants to go snorkelling. I also enjoyed Dora's cooking experiments with the local produce. I'd love to try her pumpkin risotto. But it's not all sweetness and sunshine. There are a few troubled souls in Zac and Rose's worlds, and the author untangles these tricky relationships with sensitivity. Read this if you want to escape to the Maltese sunshine and rejoice that your family is not as dysfunctional as you thought. Our next book, let's hop on the ferry and head to Gozo, one of the islands that makes up Malta. It's a mystery called Death in Malta by Rosanne Dingli. The story is centred around Gregory. He's an Australian that has gone to Malta to concentrate on writing his new book. He rents a house in a small village and starts to settle in and explore the island of Gozo. But the locals seem to shun him. He doesn't quite understand what's going on. And being a writer, he's a nosy kind of guy, so he starts to dig a bit deeper. And this is when he discovers that many years ago, a young boy from this house disappeared and was never seen again. This sets Gregory off on a mission to find out the truth about this young boy. What I liked about this book was the culture clash moments. Gregory is a typical Aussie, so he was often confused by the local language or didn't know how to do basic things like buy wine. I really enjoyed Gregory's regular visits into Rabat, the main town on the island of Gozo. This had me reminiscing about the heat I endured when I played tourist in Gozo. One of the places I liked best was the Citadel. It's a castle-like structure on the highest hill, and I learned how it was used in times of danger. The bells would ring, and all the locals on the island would drop what they were doing and run to the Citadel for safety from pirates or invaders. This sounds like a tough way to live to me. Read this book if you like mysteries with a little bit of romance and nostalgia. Our next book is an epic tale of action, history and romance set in the 16th century. It's a time when the Ottomans and the Christians are fighting battles all across the Mediterranean. It's called The Sword and the Scimitar by David Ball. The story starts one day high on the cliffs when two young children, Maria and Nico, are out looking for treasure instead of doing their chores. Little do they know a slaver ship has anchored nearby. They hear footsteps as the slavers climb the cliffs and realise danger is approaching and run. But Nico is grabbed by the slavers and taken from his sister and back to the boat. From this point forward, brother and sister will travel very different paths. Nico, ultimately onto the court of the Ottoman Empire, and Maria, staying on Malta as the knights fortify the island against their enemies. Will this brother and sister ever be reunited? What I love about this book is how vividly the capital Valletta is brought to life, especially the building of the massive battlements that surround the city. During the epic battle known as the Siege of Malta, it was easy to imagine the fortifications under attack from cannons and arrows, whilst the knights valiantly attempted to beat off the invaders. In this battle, heroic deeds are done by both sides, and again, the author authentically weaves in real historical accounts without compromising the storyline. There is one bit in the siege where a counterattack involves a Maltese man swimming a long way underwater in the Grand Harbour. He's going to lay a trap for the Ottomans. My dad was always keen on swimming long distances underwater, and it makes me wonder what stories he may have heard as a child growing up in Malta. I also liked that the story didn't get into which religion was right or wrong. The author focused on storytelling and the choices people make in their lives. Read this book if you enjoy action epics set in medieval times. Many of the books set in Malta relate to invasions, which is in stark contrast to the happy-go-lucky nature of the Maltese people I know. My personal theory is that Maltese over the centuries have had to endure so many hardships, it's only the positive ones that survive. Malta holds a special place in my heart, and I long to go back there to visit family and have fun in the sun. Links to all the books reviewed in this episode and extra content is in the description below. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Coming up next are links of more videos for you to enjoy. See you next time.